Hola guys, welcome to the new video with your host Arbaz Kesser. So, Major League Soccer MLS is trending nowadays because the GOAT Lionel Messi himself has joined the league. But a lot of the fans are oblivious to the operation of Major League Soccer or how the whole league works. So basically in this video I will be helping you by explaining the whole operation of the Major League Soccer. So stay tuned with me. Let's start with the history of MLS. MLS, acronymed as Major League Soccer, is the highest level of professional football in USA and Canada. It was basically founded in 1993, but its first league commenced in 1996. So we can say that it was basically founded in 1996. At that period of time, there were about 8 to 10 teams in MLS, but with as time proceeds, the number of teams increase. So as of today, there are a total of 29 teams in MLS, including 26 teams from the USA and 3 teams from Canada. So the 29 teams from the USA, they are categorized into the Western Conference and to the Eastern Conference. So these categories are basically based on the geographical interpretation of the USA. The teams or the clubs which are included in the western side of the USA are included in the Western Conference, and the teams or the clubs which comes in the eastern side of the USA are included in the Eastern Conference. As of today, there are 15 teams in the Eastern Conference, and there are a total of 14 teams in the Western Conference. Okay, the league, unlike the La Ligas or Serie A or Premier League, the league commenced in late February or in the start of March and goes till October. So normally the rest of the European leagues, they start normally in August and then ends in May, but MLS starts in the end of February or in March and commence till October. So each team in MLS totally plays 34 games, 17 home games and 17 away games. But basically in the Eastern Conference there are 15 teams, so within the conference they play 28 games. The remaining 6 games each team play against the opposing conference teams. Okay, and in the Western Conference there are 14 teams, so each team play 26 teams with the Eastern Conference teams within their conference basically, and the remaining 8 games they play with the opposing conference team. So that's how they fulfill the total number of 34 games. And in the Western Conference basically there are 14 teams, so one team is less as compared to the Eastern Conference. So what they do is that they either play one extra game or they play two intra games within the conference to equalize the total number of 34 games. So each team within the Eastern Conference and within the Western Conference play a total of 34 games during the whole season. Okay, so what the MLS teams basically compete for? So they basically compete for two cups. One is the Supporter Shield and one is the MLS Cup. So basically the teams from the each conference, from the Western Conference and from the Eastern Conference, with the best record throughout the season, they win the Supporter Shield. Like one team from the Western Conference with the best record, like the top team, and the one team from the Eastern Conference with the best record, or the top team, they both wins the Supporter Cup. But the most important competition for which the MLS teams compete is the MLS Cup. So the Supporter Shield event ends till October, and after the October the playoff starts. And so how the teams, they basically qualify for the playoffs. So 8 teams from each conference, 8 teams from East Conference and 8 teams from West Conference, best 8 teams, they qualify to the playoffs. And the playoff, it is a seed based playoff. Like the first team, the out of the top 8 teams from each conference, the first team played with the eighth number, and the second play with the seventh, and the third play with the sixth, and so on. So it is a seed based game, and it is only one round elimination, like in the Champions League. Unlike in the Champions League, we see that there are two games, one is home and one is away, but in the MLS Cup playoffs there are only one game, one all round game, and if you win it you will proceed to the semi-finals and to the final, and if you lose it you will be out of the cup. So basically the eight best teams from the each conference they play with each other, quarter final, semi final, and then final. So the winner of the each conference then proceeds to play the MLS Cup. So the winner of the Western Conference and the winner of the Eastern Conference, they both proceeds to play the MLS Cup and MLS Cup final. And the venue of the MLS Cup final is decided on the basis of the team which has the best record throughout the season. Okay guys, so let's proceed. Okay, now let's talk about the Champions League. Okay, so basically the MLS Cup's final happens in December. Okay, so till December, the season is over. So what does MLS teams qualify to the Champions League or no? So basically the MLS teams they qualify to the CONCACAF Champions League, which is the North American equivalent of UEFA Champions Leagues. A total of four teams from the MLS Cup, from the MLS they proceed to the CONCACAF Champions League. Two US teams qualified based on the regular results, like from the regular team results. The best two teams with the regular results throughout the seasons are qualified based on their result, and one team which wins MLS Cup qualifies, and the other team which wins US Open Cup. So what is US Open Cup? It is basically the equivalent of FA Cup, American equivalent of FA Cup. So in total four teams basically they qualify to the CONCACAF Champions League from the MLS. These out of these four teams, two teams from the qualify based on their regular results, and one team qualify based on being the winner of MLS Cup, and one team the winner of the US Open Cup, which is the North American equivalent of the FA Cup. So the Canadian teams in the MLS Cup does not qualify based on the MLS results, even if they win the US Open Cup or the MLS Cup. In case if the Canadian teams win, then they are not qualified based on this. The second best US teams are qualified. Then for Canadian teams there is only one spot in the CONCACAF Champions League. What the Canadian US MLS teams they basically play with each other in the Canadian Championship, and the winner of the Canadian Championship then proceeds to one spot in CONCACAF. So basically there are four spots for US teams and one spot for the Canadian team in the CONCACAFs. So this is basically the simple operation of Major League Soccer. Now let's talk about the criteria, how the teams are added to the MLS. So the teams, they basically there is no promotion or relegation. The only way the teams are promoted is based on the team commitment to the MLS, and they must have financial means to invest in the Major League Soccer. And the second criteria is that the team must have a fit for purpose stadium or approved plans for stadium. The third criteria is that the club must be from a relative from a regulated size of metropolitan area, and the fourth criteria is that the team must have a local established fan base. So based on these four criteria the team is added to the MLS. Unlike the other leagues, we see that there is promotion or relegation based on the results, but in MLS Cup there is no promotion or relegation. It depends on these four criteria as I have explained. Okay, so the another thing, important thing in MLS is the salary cap. So in order to maintain level field, each team has $5.2 million salary caps for the season. So each team can invest or spend $5.2 million salary for the season. Okay, and what are designated players? So basically each side in the MLS is allowed to have maximum of three designated players whose earnings do not include in the salary caps. Okay, so these designated players are excluded from the salary cap because there is a limit of salary cap for each team, but these three maximum of three players are excluded from their earnings are excluded from the season cap, and these three players are known as designated players. The rule of the designated players was basically started in 2007 when David Beckham joined LA Galaxy, and this rules gives the like ability to the teams to compete for the marquee players in the market. Okay, and at the end, the last thing is that there is MLS All-Star game. So what is MLS Star game and what is the criteria for? So MLS Star games, it actually happens in the midpoint of the season. Okay, so at the midpoint of the season the MLS All-Star games happen. It is normally it they play against other leagues like from La Liga or from Serie A or from Premier League. All-Star MLS team play a match with them, and this match is played at the midpoint of the season. So which players do play in MLS All-Star game? So the players are who will play in the MLS All-Star game. The players are selected based on the fans voting and based on the selection of the appointed managers. So guys, this is the whole operation of the MLS Cup. Thanks to the Bitway Insider for giving us this whole info. In case if you didn't understand anything in this video, so you can ask me in the comment section. I will reply. Thanks for joining and thanks for watching this video.